Hello. I do try to read all of the comments under my videos and to respond to them. Sometimes I miss them. When there's a thread, it seems to happen when there's a thread where people are commenting on a comment of somebody else. I don't appear to get notifications of those, and actually I don't know how it works. It seems completely random sometimes. Whatever. The comments are divided by YouTube into 3 folders. The first one is the published comments folder, in which whatever you've written goes straight to the main page. Then there are 2 more folders. One is called review and the other is called likely spam. Most comments with URL links end up in the spam folder, while the ones that go into the review folder generally tend to have bad language of some sort. So on Friday I was checking out the review folder and I found a comment there that was making reference to Shamima Begum's baby and made the suggestion that killing the baby might have been a good idea. I was in 2 minds about whether or not to delete that post. For instance, I always report and delete posts that refer to me in sexual or sexually violent terms because I regard that as personally threatening. But other types of insults or disagreements or diametrically opposite views, I leave them up or I OK them if they're in the review folder. Nevertheless, I was really tempted to remove this one because I just don't like to see the word kill and the word baby in the same sentence. However, I decided to leave it in, mostly so that then I could put my own comment underneath it saying that even talking about killing infants is a dreadful thing, let alone doing it. That was on Friday morning. I'd heard vaguely that there'd been some sort of shooting incident in New Zealand, but I wasn't aware of the enormity until a bit later on. I haven't seen the video, by the way, although a couple of well-intentioned people have sent me links. I don't need to see that. 49 people dead at the last count. That's all I need to know as far as the brutality goes. What I want to look at now is the way people of evil intent are going to make use of this. For instance, the MSM are rubbing their grubby little hands in glee, aren't they? And pretty soon they'll be out there with their mics asking leading questions about gun control and Islamophobia, and if they can throw in the names of people they don't like, PewDiePie and Candace Owens for a start, but I'm sure we're all aware it won't be long before Alex Jones, Styx Hexenshammer, Milo Yiannopoulos and Katie Hopkins will follow. Even perfectly reasonable political parties they don't like are getting the washback. UKIP, for instance, has reported that the Daily Mirror have accused them of somehow being implicated. This is in New Zealand, but it's gold for the MSM, isn't it? It's also gold for those Muslims of evil intent, and there are some, you know. It's given them a stick with which to beat the Western world. Never mind that they ignore all the stuff some of their nuttier adherents have done to people in the West. They'll use this. I understand that the Mayor of London has promised armed guards for mosques. We're talking about something that happened in New Zealand, but the Mayor of London, armed guards for mosques. It's not a bad idea, by the way. I've no objection to some of my tax money actually being used to keep people safe. But I have to point out that synagogues have had guards for years now. They've had to, and at their own expense, because no mayor of London has thrown his weight behind their security. And a Muslim suicide bomber dispatched 40 Hindu people in Kashmir 2 weeks ago. Did you hear about that? No? No, I'm not surprised. Neither am I surprised that Sadiq Khan, our night mayor of London, did not take the opportunity to stump up for armed guards for the local Hindu temples. Finally, this is gold for our governments. you can be sure they'll take full advantage of it. 20 years ago, a nutcase, whom I shall not name, went into a Scottish primary school with 4 handguns and killed a class full of 16 small children and their teacher, and during the rest of the mayhem managed to wound 15 more. Straight after that, within days, handguns over .22 were made illegal in the United Kingdom, and 6 months or so later, all handguns were illegal. I strongly objected to that. Well, personally, nobody took any notice of me, of course. Now, how did I feel about Dunblane? Well, pretty bad. But that wasn't the point. It just so happens we had tickets for a West End show for that very night, but I asked my husband if he'd mind us not going, because I couldn't sit there watching a show knowing what those parents were going through up there in Scotland. I gave the tickets to a neighbour. But I still objected to this sudden knee-jerk rush through of more gun restrictions. I don't think anyone could accuse me of not caring about such atrocities. Well, they could accuse me, I suppose, but they wouldn't be right. But what I do object to is the hysteria that accompanies such things. That bastard who killed those people in New Zealand did it because he knew he'd get column inches. Well, no, not inches, yards, miles. And he'd have an effect on all our lives forever after. And although it was his stated intention to start a race war, what's more likely is that he's just going to make life that little bit more difficult for us all. And still, I have to say, he's a total bastard.